Production team, are you running behind? Hello, hello.
Hello, and welcome to Building the Roadmap to Customer Value, Quarterly Planning Made Simple. I'm John Gannon. I'm the Principal Product Manager for the DigitalOcean Marketplace, and I'm joined by my colleague, Antonio Rosales.
Good afternoon or morning, wherever you're located. I'm Antonio Rosales. I'm the Engineering Manager over here in our PaaS organization. And John and I were talking about how we make our quarterly planning more inclusive and also make sure that we're bringing in the best ideas to deliver value. So there was two things we wanted to do in that. We wanted to make sure that everyone's ideas was heard. And we also want to make sure in those ideas, we weren't bringing in any pre-context or any prior lists, and that we're making sure that we are getting the best ideas that we've learned from current quarter and applying them to new quarter. So we always said we reserve the right to be smarter tomorrow. And we always said to try to figure out what are things we learned so we can continue to deliver value to our users. So on our next slide here, we wanted to make sure we weren't just copying and pasting and bringing in a list. And we have as a team, we try to make sure that we're always continually improving. And one of the things we heard from the team was like, hey, I'd love to give feedback into the quarterly process, but there's already a list that's already set, and it's hard for me to challenge that list. So we said, hey, let's develop a process that's inclusive, that takes learnings from the current quarter, and then make sure it's wide open to everyone so we can make sure we're applying the best values to our customers from our current learnings. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and John will take us through that.
Great, thanks, Antonio. And to sort of set the stage, I think that what we're going to sort of teach you today, or what you're going to learn today, we're not trying to replace how you do your quarterly planning process. We know that DigitalOcean may be different from your company, but we know that the one thing we have in common is that we're really trying to figure out what is the way that we can deliver the most customer value. And by taking some of these practices that we've learned as a team and we've developed, we hope that you can use them to deliver value to your customers as well. And so if we talk about that a little bit more in terms of what are these quarterly planning tools that we're going to be sharing, really what we want to do is help you focus on customer value, help you if you're an early stage company get to product market fit. And then on the right side, there's a bunch of things that we think this process can really help you with in terms of reducing the number of meetings that you may need to have around planning, giving you a level playing field when it comes to folks who maybe are in office and folks that are remote, and making sure they can collaborate effectively. As Antonio was saying before, how do you make this planning process more inclusive to all members of your team? It shouldn't necessarily be just the CEO or the product manager, right? This should be inclusive of engineering, design, et cetera. And really, it's all about reducing blind spots and having a planning process that gets all the best ideas on the table from across the team to help you come to a result that's going to deliver your customers more value at the end of the day. And oh yeah, we don't want to forget, we want to make this fun as well. And we've actually used this process. This is not a theoretical exercise. We've used this in each of the last 4. I actually may be wrong about that. Maybe even we're up to 5 or 6 by now. We've been doing it for so long. And so we've refined it over time. We really see that it works for us, and we're really excited to be able to share it with you because we think you can take pieces and parts of it and apply it to your own process as well. Antonio, back to you.
Yeah, so these are the kind of breakdowns of the overall steps. As we get into step 1, one of the feedback we got from the team was, hey, I didn't agree with the process. I didn't agree with the prioritization of the features we had, or I thought we should do a different feature, right? And we kept on trying to have these brainstorming processes and meetings. But one of the findings we actually pulled out from the team was that when we came in with a list, it was hard for individuals on the team to challenge that list. So a lot of our prior brainstormings would come in and say, here's a list that we had, and we just thought we were kind of seeding the conversation. The learnings we had and trying to be continually improving as a team and listening to folks' input was saying, hey, it's hard for me to come in and challenge that list and have new ideas really be heard and have it be on a normalized playing field. So John and I had a little team huddle and said, what if this came in with an open brainstorming process with no lists to specifically promote the learnings we have in the current quarter and have everyone's ideas be heard just right off the bat. No context in what the strategy is and what our mission is, just what are ideas, what do we learn, what are people thinking? And that's the process that we start in step one. John?
Great. And we're going to go through each of these steps individually now. So thanks for setting that context, Antonio. So the first step is a brainstorm. So the way we do this is we invite our team, and we actually invite folks outside the team as well who do a lot of work with our team. So it could be folks from support we work with, could be data and analytics, could be really any group that really touches us and works with us on a somewhat regular basis. And again, this is about being inclusive and getting all the best ideas on the table within the team and also from folks that touch the team. And so we use Miro for this. You don't have to use Miro. We just kind of like it. And we lay out each person who's in the brainstorm along the top. And then you can't really see it in the screenshot, but below it, during this 45-minute period, usually for the first 10 minutes, we let people, in essence, write down whatever ideas they want, put it under their name. And then after that, we move to the next step, which is remembering that for brainstorming, there are no bad ideas. And this is a really important point. I think sometimes in brainstorming sessions, folks can get hung up on maybe they don't like someone's idea or they think they missed the point or something like that. We want to take this phrase from improv comedy called yes and, which is really saying that in a brainstorming session, if someone gives an idea, you don't want to say, oh, I don't agree with that. You want to say yes, and I think that ABC is true. So really trying to keep it on the positive and keep building on top of those ideas, wanting to keep it open so that everyone feels comfortable to be able to share those ideas from whatever part of the team they're in and whatever their perspective is. So after you've done that brainstorm, you're going to categorize and synthesize these ideas. So what we do, we use Confluence. You can use Notion, you can use whatever you want for this, but we take each of those stickies and we sort of put them into a bucket. So one bucket, where the marketplace team, one bucket might be for one-click apps. Another bucket might be for our vendor portal, and so on and so forth. And so we put all the ideas on a page and we give, call it 3 to 5 business days for folks then to jump in on that page, put in questions, comments, debate, and really just, this is the part where we're really starting to try to drill in and make sure we understand where everyone is coming from and to really push the thinking to kind of develop towards what ultimately we want to get, which is a list of things that we think will deliver the most customer value within a given quarter. So after we've done that, we've had that period of time for people to leave comments. We move forward into actually making the list, and I'll hand it back to Antonio to talk to that one.
Yeah, I'll say this is a really important part where having an expert like John comes in with his product strategy skills really helps us specifically go with what our actual corporate goals are. You know, what are the things we want to deliver value to? You know, what are our team goals? And making sure we're taking the ideas and then formulating and funnel those through what are our goals, what do we accomplish, and what do we think is going to deliver the best value for our users based off of our actual research. And so he puts a lot of the product rigor here. Also, the important part that we learned from our engineering team and just general folks on the team is understanding the why. A lot of fear we got from folks is as we ended the quarter, we got a lot of sentiment like, hey, I didn't really think that the priority that we had was the right priority, or why didn't we do these specific things, or just didn't have that buy-in to the actual feature, right? Or folks just didn't get heard. And so we have a value at DO that we speak up when we have something to say, and we listen when other folks have something to say. And that's just, we want to do those things, not just say those things. So we really felt, and how we can make folks feel like they're heard and listen to them is this process, but also it's then understanding the why. So on the next step, on step 4 is really saying, you know, how does that why align with our product strategy, align with our mission, and also with the individual's mission, to the team's mission, to the company mission. So once we go through this process, we can really get folks to align with what are we doing, we see the right priority for it, and there's a high level of trust in the team because they feel like they've been heard, and it aligns with what their personal mission is with the teams and the companies. So we try to go through that full inclusive process, not just having a list, but how do we generate that list, and how do we get folks to acclimate to what is our why and why is this an important thing for us to deliver value. Once we have this set, then it's after us just going tackling and implementing for it.
Absolutely. And to put a emphasis on this, the list doesn't actually, you don't really get the list till the end, right? You're keeping it open as long as possible. You're kind of funneling down, and then you get to this final list, which the team has had a ton of opportunity to provide feedback, to ask questions, to debate, etc. And so by the time you get to this list, there's not really any surprises. You might move a thing up a couple of notches in priority or down a couple, but no one is shocked to see what is on this list. Everything generally makes sense. And you're doing some small tweaks versus some major surgery where the list at the end of the day seems way off. And that's what we've seen over the last, like I said, 4, even maybe 5 quarters now, is that when we get to step 4, generally we're almost done, and it's just putting a few final tweaks on things before we ship that priority list and begin to share it out with the organization. So that's what we have for slide content. We'd love to take a few questions. I think we have a few minutes, so feel free to fire those away in your chat window, and we will get to as many as we can. If we don't get to your question, Antonio and myself will also be in the Deploy Speakers channel, and we'd be happy to answer additional questions there as well. Okay. If we don't have any questions, then if you think of any after, please come to the Deploy Speakers channel in Discord, and we'd be happy to jump in there. And if not, we hope you take what you've learned here and apply it to your own quarterly planning process. Again, we've seen great results over the last 4+ quarters with this process, and we're confident it can help your team as well in terms of figuring out what's the best way to deliver customer value in any given quarter.
And just one quick thing to add in there too, just results wise, if folks are, coming from a startup or a small business and they're trying to figure out how do I get, more collaboration between a product and our engineering team, or even forming out our product and our engineering team. What I can say from experience here is that we try to have the value of trying to be continually improving, and we try to have the value of listening and speaking up when you do that. But that's just what we say. Again, what we do is important. And what I can say is the results of here is the feedback from the engineering team. They feel like and the holistic team feel like they've been more included in the process. The tangible features that we then implement into the product, I think everyone has more I want to say buying, but more, I guess it would be more acclimation to it, and they're more invested in seeing that feature get implemented. So I think it's great for our engineering team to feel like they've been included in the process, that we're living our DO values, and that you're actually generating some new ideas that you may not have come in if you were just copy and pasting. So we've had some new ideas pop up under our priority list that we still have to figure out and have that right friction. But I think John's seen some new ones come in that we've actually said, hey, let's bump this priority on here. We heard this a couple more times, or this really feels strongly based off of the conversation we've had. We had that come up or down on the priority list. So by the end of that process, we feel like we got a real good sound list. Everyone feels like they've been included into it, and everyone's really, acclimated to that list on implementing it for values for our customers. So I just wanted to chime in from a results-oriented point of view, if you're in that point of trying to figure out how you get that better collaboration, or even set up your product and engineering team. But if not, we'll catch you over in the Discord channel.
Yeah, it looks like we do have a couple questions now. So this first one, I think, would be one that would be perfect for you, Antonio, which is, how do you think through sizing of each feature as it relates to capacity of the team?
Yeah, so on steps, right around steps 3 and 4 that we went through, when we're going through finalizing the list, that's when we start sizing it. So steps 1 and 2 are really trying to just generate what are the ideas of the list. And even on step 1, we're not saying, well, that's going to be a big feature, but we're not be able to fit that in. Steps 3 and 4 is where we get the feature. Then we start figuring out, what does that feature look like? John will start coming up with user stories. What are the things we want to accomplish? What are the things we want to say? With those user stories, with those main features, then engineering will put a high-level estimate on that step 4. That high-level estimate is going to be, here's how many engineering days we think we'll have for it, right? And then we'll start summing those, and we'll figuring out the large t-shirt size for the level of work based off kind of a swag of engineering days. And that'll give us an idea of how big that feature is going to be. And then with John's like, what if we pared down the user story to this? And we said it's 20, maybe that's going to be 10 days, start with something a little bit smaller. So right on step 4 is when you get a better idea of what the actual feature is going to look like, and then invest a little bit more into what it actually tangibly look like from a user experience point of view.
Great, thanks, Antonio. And then I'll take this next one. How do you ensure that both the software team and the product team have the ability to participate? Where do their roles fit into this process? So I would say, and this is just the way it's worked historically, there's no reason it necessarily has to work this way, but I tend to sort of, I would say, set up the structure of the planning process from the perspective of, hey, we're going to do the brainstorming meeting, next week, right? And making sure all the right people are there. And then taking the ideas that come out of the brainstorming, making sure we get it onto a page, being in daily stand-ups and saying, in essence, here's the list, let's give some feedback on it. We've got a few more days to do that, right? So kind of keeping it top of mind with the team. So that's where I spend a good chunk of my time. And then also, we have to come to a list at some point, right? So taking the brainstorm and then taking the context of the product manager that I have of customers, of our marketplace vendors internally as well within the company goals, and then using all of that to come up with a draft list, which again, the team has opportunity to give feedback on as well. And so from an engineering team perspective, really coming in for the brainstorm, for the next step where we're putting the ideas on the page, and even through the point where we have that first draft of a list, right? And we're trying to like home in on, is this the right stuff? Is it in the right order? Okay, we've got about 4 minutes to go. I think we have a couple more questions, so let's dig into a couple of those. Antonio, this might be a good one for you. How do you move from brainstorming into that implementation phase?
Yes, around step 4, we'll get a better idea. John does a great job of actually putting into what we use here is a Confluence page. On that Confluence page, what we want to do is set what is a tangible, measurable goal, a SMART goal. What is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based, right? So what is the thing we're trying to accomplish that we're going to be able to measure whether something we're trying to do was good or bad, and hopefully measure off of a metric that can be objective and that is focused on delivering value, right? So we'll try to say, based off this your story, this is the thing, this is the what we want to do. The why we want to do it is because we want to say, we want to improve our NPS, we want to improve our conversion rate. We'll have that as a tangible goal. And then between that what and that goal, we'll give a better idea of what the feature set will look like. And then we'll start giving an estimate what that looks like. Once that estimate looks pretty good as far as what we think the size of that feature will do, then we start putting it into our epic stories. And then we move into designing, and we'll work with our UX team, our UI team, our backend engineering team, and then we'll start looking at what the API definition looks like, our documentation, what the interfaces are going to be between our UI, our UX, and our backend. From there, it's getting a pretty good design, and then it's implementing in a 2-week sprint quarter from that. But it's really from the planning process of setting what it looks like in terms of features and what are the things we want to accomplish and try to measure.
I'd also add to that the implementation, or rather the goals that we set, we've evolved as a team over time. I think we're better at it now than we were, say, a year and a half ago, which is instead of a goal around a feature, the goal is around how do we move this key business metric from X to Y? And then giving the team the flexibility to have a bunch of ideas in terms of like, how do we achieve that goal? And those ideas are things that come up during the brainstorm, right? So really trying to tie those together versus saying like goal number 2 is ship this feature. We want it really to be more about the customer value and have that customer value in everyone's mind as they're thinking about this, to also give them the ability to say, maybe they start looking at it and they say, hey, you know what? I actually think this is a better way to do it in the middle of the quarter. And that's okay, right? We want to have that ability to collaborate and to change direction if we need to. And by framing it in terms of that business metric, you can have those conversations versus a theoretical of like, I think feature X is better than feature Y, right? It's more about what's that customer value and how do we increase that value?
I think we're just one more minute, and I like that last question. Any other prior steps when you are just at the start of building the product? I will say, I would encourage whatever team you have is to start with a good sense of trust on the team, identify roles and responsibilities for the team. And then once you got a good sense of trust, people are going to talk about their ideas. They're going to feel comfortable saying what they want to see in their product, right? And then really attach to your team a sense of like, we want to deliver value to the customer, and that idea can come from anywhere. So if you have that focus on the customer, you have the trust in the team, you have the roles and responsibilities laid out, you can go through different processes and you can find the one that works right for your team, but I think this one works well for our team based off of those kind of foundational points.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate the time, and we will see you in Discord. Happy coding.
Thank you.